Speaking of Chelsea, we mentioned them already. I need to show you guys something that Chelsea have been on PR frenzy. And this was published today that says, in a meeting with the board, Maresca was asked if he thinks this squad was ready to compete for top 4 next season. And his reply, he didn't come to Chelsea to compete for the top 4, and he believes this squad should be fighting for the Premier League, and he wants to challenge City and Arsenal next season. So the Chelsea manager has stated that this Chelsea team is ready to challenge for and or win the Premier League. What do you make of that, Dan? Are they at that level?
No, they're nowhere near it. It's clueless, isn't it? It's embarrassing, if I'm honest. If everyone thinks this Chelsea squad's good enough to win the title, they are absolutely deluded, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'm not saying they can't challenge for it, because the window is open and they might do something madness. They might go and get a top number 9, a brilliant midfielder, somebody in defence who sorts them out. They might go and sort their goalkeeper out. And if you actually get their kind of window right, they might be able to do something. But I do not see Chelsea winning the league at all next season. I understand why he's saying it, because he wants to try and be this guy who's, look at this, he's got ambition, he's going to the very, very top. But actually, let's just be realistic, because I'm sure the Brentford fans and the club want to win the league, but they're not going to, are they? Because the squad's not big enough, right? I actually don't think the Chelsea squad is as amazing as what people make out. I think they've got maybe seven or 8 players that look pretty good, but the rest of them are all young and yet to be proven. Is Madueke good enough to win the league? No. He's probably a good squad player to have, though. Yeah, he probably is. But he's not good enough to start every week, in my opinion, and tear it up and start to win the league with it. Up top, you've got Nicholas Jackson, who isn't a bad player. I thought he was pretty poor, if I'm honest, but actually he started to improve himself. But in front of goal, he is awful. You've got to get better than him. Yeah, they've got to have creativity in their midfield. They don't have any, if I'm honest. Gallagher's probably one of their better ones, and that's poor when he's one of the better ones. Caicedo has been a shadow of the player from Brighton. Enzo, we still don't know what he is. Lavia, I think, is a good player, but he's a holding midfielder, not a creative one. And I think other than Gusto at the back, they've got question marks in every position about who's going to play where. Do they play Chilwell? Do they play Cucurella? Is Levi Colwill ready to start? Is Fofana going to stay fit? Because I rate him if he is fit. Is the goalkeeper a number 1 or a number 2, Petrovic? So in every position you go through the Chelsea squad, you've got a question mark on it, really, other than 2 or 3 that are absolute dead sturts. So I don't know, man. Do you think this squad's good enough to go and win the league? I just don't think it is yet. So they need a good window, man.
Before I answer that question and go to the thing, I want to say thank you to everyone who's tuning in. This is the biggest live audience any Straits Fact Show has ever had. So I want to say a big thank you to all of you for that. And thank you to Man City for suing the Premier League. Yeah. So it's... I'm profiting off of the suing. Is what I'm doing. Yeah, LB, I mean, look, the manager's got to go into an interview and impress. We've all had job interviews. We've all gone in there and tried to impress. Do you think between him and the way Chelsea are releasing this information, they're maybe getting a little bit ahead of themselves? Or is it right to have this type of confidence and chest at this stage?
Delusional. Sacked by December, bro. I can't believe he said that. I cannot believe he said that. I mean, they have been in such turmoil for the last 2 years. Yeah. And he comes out here and says they're ready to challenge for the Premier League. I mean, come on. What are we doing? Have some respect, man. Yeah. City and Arsenal going toe to toe 2 years in a row. And this guy comes in. You don't have a striker yet. Yeah. No one knows who the striker's going to be. He still don't know what's going on with the goalkeeping situation. He's never managed in the Premier League. And he comes in and says that. Wow. I can't believe he said that, man. All he has to do is come in and say, listen, we're going to be making progress. Yeah, we're going to implement our style of play, etc., etc. You don't have to come in there and start talking about, oh yeah, we're gonna challenge for the Prem. I mean, he's just set himself up for failure there, in my opinion. And people will say, well, what do you expect him to say? Manage the expectations a little bit, mate. Yeah, what's he doing here? Gassing up the place, trying to say that he's going to be challenging for the Premier League. I just don't see it happening. So, are we going to judge him off what he's saying then? So, if they're 10th mid-table, yeah, by December, which is a fair thing to say because that's where they've been 2 years on a bounce, yeah. They were mid-table in December last year. Are we going to say he's underperforming? Well, he's underperforming by his own metrics. He's telling he's going to win the league or at least come close. I just think it's a bit of a naive thing to say, and it's not surprising because he is naive. He's very young. He's not managed proper. He's not managed in the Premier League before.
It reminds me. Do you remember when Martinez got the Everton job? And I remember he started really well, if you guys remember correctly. And it just so happened to be in the exact same season that Moyes was at Man United doing poorly. And I remember in sort of like the October time, this article came out and Everton pushed this out. And I think it was a way of, bit of PR, bigging up their manager and a bit of a passing shot at David Moyes, where I think it might have been, God rest his soul, Ken Wright, who said that he was so impressed with Martinez in the interview room. Every other manager that he'd ever interviewed for the Everton job, including David Moyes, the interview process was, this is my plan to how I'm going to keep you in the Premier League. This is the plan to how I stop you from being relegated. Where Roberto Martinez came in and he had a plan all written out that this is my plan to make you a Champions League team. And it said it blew their socks off because everybody else came into the job interview talking about stopping relegation. He was talking about winning something and or getting into the Champions League. And part of me thinks, well, that's a really good approach to get yourself a job. But you are also then setting yourself up for failure because I see a lot of Chelsea fans getting, even in our group chats, they're getting very excited and very happy, which they're entitled to do. But the manager, unless your club has lied to the media, your manager has said this, if he is not challenging for the league title, he's at risk of being sacked because he's saying this squad is good enough to challenge Man City and Arsenal. So if they're not near Man City and Arsenal, the only reason can be you. And you don't need to put that it's funny, really, because handling pressure is key. Ed Woodward at Man United a few years ago, before a transfer window, said, we can do things in the transfer market nobody else can. And it was kind of true at the time, but he should never have said it because all it ever did since then is we got less money for ourselves and we overpaid for every player because we basically said we can. And we created a rod for our own back. And I think that's what's happening. The Chelsea PR, in trying to not just justify the sacking of Poch and the new manager, the stuff they're saying, I just feel like you don't need to push it. Just be quiet. Let everybody know he's a young manager. You're fully behind him. It's why it's a long-term project. You're going to look to improve the team and look to have a better season. Play down the expectations because that pressure that they're building upon themselves he may flourish and they may be brilliant next year, but you're building up the pressure that you don't know whether you can handle yet. And I look at my club, the opposite direction. I love how we're behaving at the minute. I'm seeing Staffy at the minute. Hope you're good, son. Son's an English expression for mate. Don't take it offensively. Sometimes I say it to Americans. I'm like, you don't understand. It's not a bad thing. And we've got this big debate internally that's happened at the club with Sir David Brailsford and Blanc, who are on the board, have been debating the pros and cons for keeping and getting rid of Ten Hag. Now, the journalists that have shared this story have gone into full context about it. It's not that either are married to the idea, but they're having the conversation and they're fighting each side because they want to have a fair, balanced and objective conversation to make sure they make the right decision. I love how we're behaving. Everything we're doing at the minute is quite quiet, quite reserved. I think loads of stuff's going on, not under the table. That sounds dodgy, but it's a bit like a swan. All nice and calm on the top, but beneath the surface, there's a lot happening. I think that's the best way to behave. It's one of the things about Liverpool. One of the things about Arsenal in recent years, definitely Man City, barring all these things that are going on at the minute, that I've always been jealous of, is that you just, even when things are tough, you operate quite quietly without too much hype or crazy PR. Maybe Arsenal have a bit of crazy PR, to be fair. But City and Liverpool certainly haven't. And I think for me, when I see what Chelsea are doing, it's like, say less, do more. Say less and do more. And the reason I mentioned Staffy, by the way, is because he read today about the debate and he said, I can't understand what's going on. It's good to have those debates. You have to have those conversations. That's another matter, though. But yeah, I just look at the Chelsea stuff and I think you've got a good squad. It may get better. I don't know anything about Enzo. I can't judge him as a manager yet. But saying that you're good enough to be in the title race this early, it's mad. You don't need to do it. You don't need to do it.
Said, if the statement would have been similar to, we're a massive club, we want to be winning trophies again, we're not there at the moment, we've got to catch Manchester City and Arsenal up, and this is going to, I hope that we can do that with X, Y, Z. But it's not that, it's just like, we're going to be able to go for the title. It just makes yourself sound stupid, in my opinion. Listen, he's got to hope that he absolutely bangs and he cooks, and Chelsea fans are like, well, hey, we've got our Roman Chelsea back. I just don't see a Roman Chelsea. I really don't. I
He's
think
also
it's
what?
gonna be
Am I
mad.
right in saying this? I seen on Twitter today he wants to keep Robert Sanchez as his number one.
Yes, he does.
I think he might. I think he might have got the table the wrong way around, man. Because if you've got him as the goalkeeper, you're heading for. He's a shocking goalkeeper, man. I'm telling you, he's not a good goalkeeper at all. Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. That's already a red. If I was a Chelsea fan, I'd already have a red flag straight away there. Because if he wants him as your number one goalkeeper, that's wild. Yeah, you still don't have a striker yet. Half your team's constantly on the injury table. Yeah, you need to sort that out with your medical staff. There's a lot to go on at Chelsea. And there's a lot to be fixed before you can start talking about going for the Premier League when you've got City and Arsenal up there. And even Liverpool, that's madness as well. So, yeah, wild, man.
Rob here says, why does he not need to say it? That's what you want to hear from your manager. See, Robert, I disagree. It's what you want to hear. I get that you want to hear it and you want to believe it. But there's an element here of sort of a delusion of grandeur. Chelsea aren't there yet. Don't put that added expectation upon you. I keep speaking about this when everyone goes on about standards. Standards only matter in reality. If you're in reality, you've got a chance of winning. And what I mean by that is Chelsea is so unlikely to challenge. Don't apply extra pressure to yourself, your squad, your players, and your club. Don't get the fans so excited that even a good season from where you are may feel like disappointment. You want to bring people along for that journey. Yes, have high standards of getting back to that state, but you were essentially saying this squad is as good as City's and as good as Arsenal's. Therefore, anything other than the title race now is a failure of a season. That can lead to the mood changing, toxicity, anger, frustration, maybe even the sacking. That type of the clubs that do well, typically speaking, have the majority fan base that are on side. So something in that, isn't there? Like, we always act like being angry as a fan, it'll make my club better. Does it? Does it really help when everybody's angry all the time? Doesn't say you shouldn't criticize. There's got to be a balance to this. Making the statement he has made is applying ridiculous pressure to himself and his team that he doesn't need to do. And as Chelsea fans, you know where you're at. You shouldn't need, if Man United get a new man, say De Zerbi comes in tomorrow at Man United, I don't want to hear him talk about winning the league next season, ending eras, putting that pressure out there. Keep your powder dry. I care about the standards internally and what we're trying to achieve, not what we're saying in public all the time. Honestly, we don't need to do it. This isn't, the Premier League people have got to realize, this isn't like two boxers that have to sell a fight. Boxers have to sell a fight. I saw everyone having a pop at Fury the other day at his quote where he turned around and he was laughing about Usyk being able to beat him. He knew Usyk had the ability to beat him. But all fighters say, you ain't never beating me. I can't be knocked out. It's about selling the fight. Footballers and football managers don't need to sell the Premier League. It's done. It's sold. People are tuning in. You don't need to do it. Keep your powder dry at this stage and stop putting ridiculous pressure upon your team. Honestly.